Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Music Industry Loft. This is the podcast where we dive into the careers, lives and passions of the people driving the music industry. Today we talk to Veerle Klok, who is not only a dancer for Scooter, which is so cool, she's also a political scientist that works in awareness, which may be even cooler. From performing on the biggest stages with Scooter to working with Sex Matters and different organizations, she works in social safety and builds inclusive nightlife communities. Veerle has chosen to do this interview in English, so for my usual non-Dutch followers, you can actually listen to this episode on Spotify as well. But of course, if you want the video version, that will be on YouTube. This episode is also available on Apple Podcasts. Before I dive into the conversation with her, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this episode, which is Men's Mental Health. For the people watching, you can see me wearing the shirt. For the people not watching but listening, I will definitely link everything below. I think it's such a cool conversation starter about such an important topic. We talk about it more in the episode. Anyway, let's head to Veerle and see what she has to say. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
I'm so excited for this.
Me too.
Yeah, we haven't met yet actually, so this is our first time actually vibing.
We met now on the stair.
On the stairs
when you came in.
Yeah. Can you introduce yourself? Because I introduced you in the intro, but I want to hear your story. You introduce yourself.
Okay, so my name is Veerle.
Yeah.
I am 28 years old. I come from a small city up in the north in the Netherlands. It's called Sint Pancras. Have you heard of Sint Pancras?
Never heard of it, sorry.
So Sint Pancras is like a tiny little village in the neighborhood of Alkmaar, Hedegewaard. And I started when I was really young as a dancer. That's also how I ended up in nightlife. So you can imagine that I was like 17 and I was dancing like in a club for the first time, and I was in a bikini on a speaker somewhere.
Yeah.
But that is also how I ended up in social safety, because that night, me being in a bikini on a speaker at 17, you can already imagine how that went down.
Yeah.
But later I studied political science and international development, so that is how I also became very political with work. And throughout my studies I've always just kept on dancing, and I kept on also paying for my studies with dancing.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
very
somehow
cool.
I turned into a political dancer, which is a very funny thing.
Yeah.
And I started working for an organization called Sex Matters, where we give trainings about social safety, anti-discrimination, safer clubbing, awareness. We train security people, all that kind of stuff. And I started working for Orphic, which is like an illegal techno rave organization, where I do everything that is about social safety, inclusivity, diversity, all that kind of stuff. And somewhere in this process I started working for Scooter, which is
That's
like
so random
one
to
of
me.
the,
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
the story is also very random. I'll tell the story later, but somewhere in these years I got asked to dance for Scooter, and I've now been doing that for 3-4 years as well. So I do political stuff, I dance, and I do nightlife stuff, everything
Very cool.
mixed.
Yeah, so you studied political science, right? How does that combine with everything? Because when you say like, I'm a dancer for Scooter, and then you study political science. I mean, I have a bachelor in English language and culture, and I do marketing for events, so there's no match there either. But yeah,
I think when I studied dance, I had too much opinions. As a dancer, they kind of expect you to just do as you're told, stand in the back and just follow along to what the teacher said. But I always had a little bit of a problem with authority. I always had a little bit of a problem with people telling me what to do if I didn't see why. So I think for me, after dancing, at some point I really started hating dancing, because I hated who I was dancing. So at some point I decided that I wanted to do something else. And everyone was like, you're always talking about politics. Do something about politics. So then I just decided to try, and I ended up doing political science.
Yeah.
And then it became really funny, because I was studying political science while already dancing for Scooter and dancing in clubs in my bikini, half naked, party girl, everything. And people were like, how do these things match? And the truth is,
they do match though in my brain.
Yeah,
because
they do.
You actually experience the things why you're doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the dance floor is also political, and social safety is political, and clubs are political. And I think for me that always feels as though it matches pretty well. And sometimes it also doesn't, but that also makes it fun, because if I would only be able to talk about politics all the time, then I think I would have a less fun life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But if I would only dance for Scooter, then it's also a lot of fun, but then I would miss some depth and some thinking.
Yeah.
So I think that's how they match for me.
Let's talk about Scooter first before we go into
Yeah.
everything else you're doing.
Yeah.
So I can imagine it's an incredibly fun job, and I think you called it the most fun job.
Yeah, it's
on
the most
Instagram.
fun job I
Yeah,
ever
yeah.
had. Yeah.
So first of all, how did you get into that? And then also, like, tell me about the job. What does your day look like? What does your tour
Yeah.
look like?
Okay, so I was already dancing as like a freelancer, and there's this one girl that I danced with more often, and I was at a party one time. It was Unpolished Reactor a while back, Warehouse Elementstraat, and the closing was a gabber closing.
Yeah.
And I remember standing like left front of the at the gabber closing and dancing with this girl I knew from dancing jobs. We ended up at the same after party, and at the after party she looks at me and she looks like up and down, and she's like, "You're a dancer, right?" And I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "How tall are you?" Like 178. "And you like hardcore?" "Yes." "Do you want to dance for Scooter?" And I was like, "What?" "Yeah." "You mean Scooter as in the..." And she was like, "Yes, that's Scooter." And then she asked me like, "You can come next week because I need a dancer like next weekend." And I thought she was just bullshitting because it was an after. And
To be fair, that's where you get the jobs.
yeah, afters are
very much.
networking events,
Yeah.
girl, I know. So I thought she was bullshitting, so I just said to her, "Lianke, yeah, call me on Tuesday. I'm free that weekend." And then they bought my plane ticket and I went in. And that was right before COVID, I think, or right in the middle of the start of COVID somewhere. So then I joined one time, and I couldn't join for a very long time because there were no concerts, no events. And then mid-COVID, when they opened everything up, I did 1 or 2 shows with them. And then that just started slowly rolling. First, I couldn't join the big tours because I was still studying. And I was writing a thesis, a political science thesis, while Scooter was touring. So that didn't match. I couldn't combine. But then I graduated a year and a half ago. And then last year they had 2 big tours. So they said, "Well, do you want to be on the 2 big tours?" And I said, "Yay, I would love to."
That's so cool.
So last year was the first year where I did it like a lot. We had 2 big tours, one of 3.5 weeks of Europe, Eastern Europe, and from Amsterdam to Czech, kind of.
Yeah.
And a UK, Ireland tour. So then, how does a day look like? Well, we live in a tour bus, kind of.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We sleep in a tour bus. And then the tour bus in the morning arrives at the venue. Then all the crew goes out of the tour bus and they build the entire stage and the entire venue. Of course, you know about that. Then we have a day off pretty much. So we just go into the city, or we rehearse our dances, we wash our clothing. And then in the night we do our full show, and then we pack up and go on the tour bus again and go to the next place.
That's actually pretty a crazy life. It's like 3.5 weeks straight, you said?
Yeah, last year we did 3.5 weeks straight and 2 weeks straight. And this year we're doing like a summer weekend tour. So it's cut up.
Yeah.
So every week I leave on Wednesday or Thursday and I come back Sunday or Monday.
Yeah.
But I actually prefer the tours in one go, because then my whole brain is set to touring.
Yeah.
And now I come back home, I have to wash all my clothing. And because I'm coming home, I can see my friends, but then I only have 2 days.
It's very short, it's chaotic, I can imagine. Does that affect like your mental health and the way you live? Because I can imagine it's hard being healthy, taking care of yourself on a tour bus.
Oh my God, girl, yeah. I think one of the things that is really important to me is that my mental health is better if I'm having fun. And because I'm having so much fun, that is already saving a lot of mental health issues, I think. But one thing to be like very mindful of is like substances and drinking.
Sleep as well, I think.
Sleep, I know. Sleep on a bus is very challenging. Yeah. So for me, I made the very hard decision to never use any substances with Scooter. Because Scooter is something where people drink, there's alcohol, but it would be so easy to, if you...
Your cat is going into my stuff. Yeah, for the people watching, if you see a cat in the background, it's her cat.
It's my cat. He's called Apollo, and he's up in...
He loves my bags because I have 3 cats as well. Yeah. Let him do his thing.
Yeah. So I decided that it's too easy to just fall in the trap of using stuff for everything. So I just don't, and that helps a lot. I think if you work in nightlife, you have to think about those things always. Like, how do I navigate that?
I'm sober as well.
And for me, Scooter sober is something that is, well, you cannot call it sober because Scooter is about drinking all the time. But I mean like drug sober, that helps. And I try when I'm at home to do nothing.
Yeah.
Which is difficult because I think
You're so in the scene. Yeah, I get it.
And I love it. And then there's parties that I want to go to and
Yeah.
stuff that I want to think about. But I try to, take it chill when I can. And also I have a good support system. And I think that is what ultimately makes people most mentally well.
Definitely.
If they have a support system to rely on.
Yeah.
And I have friends, partners who just, if I come back home and I'm tired and I'm like, I'm so tired, they're like,
oh, I know the feeling where you just break down.
Like, I'm
because
just
you're
so
so
tired.
Yeah.
And then they just are like, okay, open up your suitcase, throw everything in the laundry, sit on the couch, lie down, you're gonna be okay. And that helps a lot.
It always comes in the weirdest moments as well when you break down. I was at Decibel this weekend. Super good weekend. Everything was flowing really well. It was really fun.
I had so much FOMO.
Oh, I'm sorry. But on Sunday, my partner was working there as well, so I went to say hi to him on Sunday because I had some free time, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna get some food. Do you want to come with me? I didn't know what to pick, and I was very hungry, and the vegan options were very low, and I was feeling very good, and I broke down about that, and he was just like, it's okay, go get some falafel. I was like, yeah, I will, and then I was good again.
Yeah, I feel that.
But it comes in those moments, just like the little drop, and you're like...
I feel that totally, and I think like you're saying sleep, so that is something that is sometimes a challenge on the tour, because if I don't sleep, I become this person always. Just like...
Yeah, you get very emotional quick when you don't sleep. Yeah,
I know. And for me, like we have in our tour bus, we have pretty comfortable beds, and they have like little curtains. So what helps for me is just I have to be in that bed for 8 hours. I don't have to sleep those 8 hours, but it's important to not just go to bed at 5 and then leave the bed at 9 because you're constantly going. So I have to close the curtains, be in the bed for at least enough hours to rest.
It was recently proved, I think, that rest already helps, like just laying down already helps.
For sure. Yeah. And by calming your brain, also you can sleep easier. And at some point I noticed that, like, for example, melatonin can help with falling asleep if you're in like a different circumstances. And I don't like suggest everyone use melatonin all the time. But sometimes if I can't sleep on a bus and melatonin from the kruidvat is saving me.
Magnesium for me.
Yeah, magnesium, same. Yeah. Magnesium and melatonin are my...
Because also I dream crazy, especially if I'm like very busy. Dreams are all over the place. Magnesium helps me. I still dream crazy, but it's a bit less.
I understand, yeah. And I think, I already said that, but having fun in your work also makes it a lot easier. Last year when we had the tours, I still had all my regular day jobs as well. So then when I got back home, I had to work immediately multiple days in the week and then leaving, and that was too much. Yeah. But this year I changed my regular work to I have a flexible contract now. So in the winter months, when I have low season of dancing, I work more. And in the summer months, I only work 1 day a week.
That's great.
And that's so much better.
Yeah, yeah, for me as well. You also learn, because this summer I was like, I need to do less, and then I didn't. And now I have one festival left as we're filming this. I'm like, oh, I'm so done with summer. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to feel like that next year. So I'm already like, okay, I've learned from this. Next year I'll pick a bit more.
Do less.
Yeah, exactly.
And girl, it's difficult to do less. I like so much.
Also as a freelancer, like everything I do is freelancing and every job makes money. So
yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
But yeah, sometimes you have to make those choices.
For me, I decided this year for dancing, only take on the jobs that I really like. Because when I started dancing, I did all the dancing jobs. I did like the random corporate where they needed just a random dance girly. And I did all of it. Yeah. But then you're doing like a 8-hour job for 160 euros. And it's so tiring on your brain, and people make you tired there as well.
Yeah, so at some point that's not worth it anymore. But I get when you're starting out.
Yeah, and when you're studying and you're building like networks. So now Scooter is like my main dancing gig, and there's some things I enjoy working for, some styles, some events, but apart from that, that's enough for me. Yeah.
Let's go to all your other things you're doing. Sex Matters first. Yeah. I think. Can you explain a bit for the audience what Sex Matters is and what it is you do?
Okay, so Sex Matters was founded 13 years ago to talk mainly with young people about topics such as sexuality, gender, consent, so wishes, boundaries, that kind of stuff, and discrimination. Because 13 years ago in school, I know people now feel like these topics are everywhere, but 13 years ago they weren't.
No.
13 years ago, talking with kids about like topics such as who are you? What does your body feel like? Do you feel comfortable in boys' clothes? Do you feel comfortable in girls' clothes? Those were new topics. Yeah. And Sex Matters kind of jumped into the gap that they saw in schools. So they started talking with young people. And if I say young people, I mean like high school kids, like 12 to 16.
Yeah.
I'm not meaning like kids, I'm meaning like 12 to 16. And then later at like universities, MBO, HBO. And then at some point there was a club in Amsterdam. And the club said, hey, these topics that you teach about, sexuality, gender, discrimination, consent, these topics are also very alive in nightlife.
Yeah.
These topics are so much at play. Can you make something for nightlife? So then Safer Clubbing was born, and Sex Matters made the Safer Clubbing training like 7 years ago. And it was so funny because in the beginning when they did Safer Clubbing, people were like, what is this?
Yeah.
Why do we need this? But now Sex Matters trains even the biggest festivals, even like pop podia or just like cafes in Brabant somewhere.
Yeah.
Because every place deals with topics that are like about, for example, consent, discrimination, harassment, but also identity. How do people feel safe in a space?
Yeah.
And I joined Sex Matters 7 years ago, first teaching young kids, then later mainly focus on nightlife. And then from nightlife, there was a restaurant who said, hey, can you do this in restaurants? Then there was a company who said, hey, can you do this in a company? And then it just went on. And now we train everyone who wants to hear us, basically.
That's cool.
Yeah.
If we look at nightlife, how does that training translate to an actual dance floor?
I think, so the training consists of multiple things, and it depends a little bit who you train.
Yeah.
For example, we train also awareness teams, we train security staff, we train bar staff, and all those things translate to the dance floor a little bit different. But all in all, it's about being aware of the people around you. It's about being aware of the space you're taking up. It's also being aware of the things you can do preventatively. So it's not just about what do we do if someone is sexually abused or something, but it's also about how do we prevent that from happening.
Yeah. Which I think in the end is most important because
of course. Yeah, like you can kick people out all you want to, but in an ideal situation, you teach people what they need to know so that you don't have to kick them out.
Yeah.
And so that they can, because I also think that people want to have a nice night.
Yeah.
The majority of people goes out because they want to have a fun night. Not because they want to fight, not because they want to, but you have to give people a little bit of tools to do that.
To navigate it.
Yeah, so it's about club rules, club policy, what they do preventatively, what they do at the door, all that kind of stuff translates to a dance floor where people feel seen, safe, where they can be themselves. And if something goes wrong, the people know what to do. Yeah. Because I'm not saying nothing can go wrong, but it's nice if something goes wrong and you go to the bar and you say, hey, I just experienced this, that then the people at the bar can say, I know what to do. I'm going to call someone for you. I'm so sorry. Wait here for a minute, etc.
I can imagine, because they started 13 years ago, so you started 7 years ago, do you see a big difference in
massive
in nightlife now and nightlife back then?
Massive. Yeah. It's even become a little bit of a buzzword now. In the beginning, when I talked about this, people were like, why do we need to talk about safety in events? It's just fine. You just look at your neighbor and everything is good. But now you see that even big festivals have like social awareness policies. And sometimes, if I'm allowed to be a little bit critical here, they only write it down because they know it's popular now, but they don't actually do a lot of work to make it better. But that's also something that is a good sign, because
it's a start, right?
Yeah. Because it means that it's gaining popularity and it's becoming a bit more mainstream. And I think in the end, that's the only thing you can do. I was at a German festival a while ago. It was like a rock festival, just mainly men, mosh pitting, chaos, everything. And I expected like zero social safety things. Yeah. But everywhere they had big signs.
In Germany as well.
Yeah. And it was not Berlin. No. It was just
because
random
I do
Germany.
have to say, like, I'm in Germany a lot too. It's definitely a bit behind their...
Yeah. Apart from Berlin, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But everywhere there were signs saying nur ja is ja, which means only yes is yes. Yeah. And it was so cool as a woman to walk there and to see that, because that knows that A, the men read it. Yeah. Also women, but people who might be a perpetrator read it. And B, it also means that if something happens, they thought about it. Yeah. So I can go to a security or a bar and be like, hey, something happened, and they will hopefully listen. Yeah,
that's also a nice feeling that you will be heard if you go to like a security.
Exactly. Yeah. And by places demonstrating that we have a social safety team, we care about your well-being, if anything is wrong, please come to us, that already lowers the bar to go to someone.
Yeah.
And it already makes it easier to say, hey, I just experienced something and I need help.
Yeah. Cool. I'm happy to hear that it's getting better, to be honest.
Yeah. It also had to get better.
I mean, you see the signs, but as you say, sometimes it's just a sign.
Yeah. I agree.
But then it's nice to know that they actually, think and talk about that.
And I think by putting up the signs, even if they don't know yet how to like act with the signs, people come to them and then they have to think about it anyway.
Yeah, and I think
that helps.
Especially for big festivals, it can also be quite hard because you have such massive teams of security and bar people. Especially bar people are often very young to brief all of them on this. Yeah. That's definitely a step that I think needs to be.
If the awareness team and first aid and security are aligned well, then it can alleviate so much of the stress from security and, for example, first aid.
Can I put this on your floor?
Yeah, of course. At Dekmantel, we worked at Dekmantel with Sex Matters awareness team a while ago, and there it was so funny because there were many people in a K-hole ending up in the first aid tent, but the people in a K-hole don't need that much medical help. So the first aid tent was too full and they needed the space back, so then they just brought all the people with K-hole just up to our awareness tent. We just put them in different corners, gave them something sugary and just a couch to chill on. And then it can actually really help also for first aid to have less work. Yeah. For example, if someone comes in and they do need medical care, we get first aid immediately. Or for example, there was a case where there was a perpetrator and a victim, and security kicked the perpetrator out, but then you're left with a victim. Yeah. And the security, like, I love security, they keep us safe, I love them, but they don't always know how to do with victims. Yeah. They're like these big guys and they're like, yes, I'm sorry that happened to you. And then they are like, oh, what the fuck do I do now? And then it's nice to just have also young people who are a little bit more aligned with these festival goers who can say, hey, that really sucks. Yeah. Can I offer you a cola? Shall we talk about it? Yeah. And I think that really helps.
Definitely. Sometimes it's just enough to be heard by someone that understands.
Many times. Did you know that this is a fact we use often in our trainings, but one of the things that really alleviate trauma is if the first people that you see take you seriously. Yeah. So for example, if you have sexual trauma and the first people you talk to don't hear you out and they gaslight you, they tell you it's your own fault, then the trauma gets bigger. But if the first people you speak to tell you, I'm so sorry that happened to you, and they listen and they take you seriously, then the trauma actually decreases. So
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's also a scientifically proven fact to not gaslight people.
Just don't gaslight people. Just don't gaslight people. Here.
But also that if you experience something that is traumatic, which sexual harassment is, then the first people you talk to have such a big impact on the trauma later on in life. And I think that's something that's so good to realize, that we have a big influence positively on someone. Yeah. That we can. Yeah. We can also have negative influence, but preferably a positive.
Yeah. Let's go to Orphic. I didn't know this. I'm not that much in the scene in Amsterdam, actually. Okay, so tell me everything about it.
Yeah. Okay. So Orphic was also founded like 8 years ago, but as an illegal rave. Yeah. It was just 3 friends, and they wanted to throw like an illegal rave outside somewhere in a field. They just got speakers, but then like 500 people showed up. Oh. So it was way bigger than they anticipated. And then Orphic started throwing events, mostly illegal in the beginning. Later, because it was COVID again, and then the cops became really strict. Yeah. At some point, they had to go to like semi-legal, and now it's mainly legal because we're bigger and the cops know us, so we have more to lose. Yeah. We cannot just put like speakers in a field, because if they arrest us and they take the speakers, then Orphic as a company, or as it's a non-profit company, but still as a company can lose a lot. Yeah. I joined 4 years ago, I think. Because at some point it was founded by 3 people, and at one point there was 1 person left. So he needed to collect a team around him. And he just looked at himself and he's like, okay, if I need like a team, what knowledge can I use? Yeah. So he got someone for booking.
That's a smart way to look at it.
Yeah, very smart. So he got someone from booking who is also a DJ. Then he got someone else for production. And then he added me for social safety, inclusivity, policy, everything I do for Sex Matters also. And then later we added 1 person for art. And that is like the core team. Yeah. And we have a bigger team around it, but now we still host events. It's all community based. So we book only local artists.
Cool.
We always try to keep the entry price really low. We do it all voluntarily. No one of Orphic makes
so it's
any
non-profit.
money.
Yeah, cool.
No one gets paid anything, only the DJs. But then also all our DJs get paid the same. No matter if you're already bigger and you're closing, or you're just starting and we let you open, everyone gets the same fee, which is more of a symbolic fee because we charge low ticket prices, so there is not a big fee to be given. But that way we can keep it also community driven. We always have volunteers who do the door, we have volunteers who do the sticker. So I think Orphic really tries to build a community also on and off the dance floor.
That's cool.
And when I joined, I remember one of the first nice things I got to do there. I always hated Christmas for various.
I did too.
You did too?
Not anymore. I actually I enjoy the run up to Christmas. I like the whole. I don't like Christmas itself. I like the Christmas movies and the coziness.
The vibes.
And then it's Christmas, and then you have so much going on, and I get like really stressy and nervous, and I'm like, oh, I hate this. And then Christmas over, I was like, oh, it's nice and cozy and wintry again. So,
I feel you.
Yeah.
No, I always hated Christmas for different reasons, like for family reasons.
Same.
I think for many queer people, it's the same. But I always felt so alone. I always felt so alone in that. So I remember when I joined Orphic and I said to Veerle, who was the owner, I hate Christmas. Can we organize something on Christmas?
Yeah.
And he was like, go do it.
But that's then your found family, right? And
exactly.
Then suddenly it gets fun again because you get to do it with people.
Yeah, so we organized a queer Christmas dinner.
Cool.
And it was not just for queer people, but just because a lot of queer people have problems with Christmas because they cannot be themselves when they go home or they don't have family who speaks to them anyway. And we organized a Christmas dinner on the second day of Christmas, and like 100 people came, and people brought their partners who they've never been able to bring to Christmas. Yeah. People without houses or status or anything came. Yeah. And we did it at something in Dutch called a volkskeuken. So the people who work there are also people with a distance to the job market. So there we're also helping other communities get work and get jobs. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the core of what we do at Orphic. Yes, it's raves. Yeah. But it's also community. Yeah, community building.
Cool. Yeah. That's really cool. Because you are very much in the queer community, speaking out about that. Why is that so important to you?
I think as someone who grew up in like a tiny little village in St. Pancras, I always felt weird. Yeah. And I always felt like not fitting in. And I don't know why, but I was drawn to queer people from when I was so young. As a dancer also, there were so many stereotypes about the boys who dance, that all of them must be gay and blah, 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 which some of them are, but also many of them are not. But I don't know, for some reason, I've always been surrounded by queer people and I find myself drawn to them. And then when I first fell in love with a girl, I was like, oh, fuck, I should have known. Yeah.
What a surprise.
What a surprise. Yeah. What a surprise. I'm not just drawn to queer people, but...
Yeah, honestly, when I came out of the closet to my mom, she was like, yeah, I know. I was like, yeah.
My mom too. Yeah. I just told her, like, I have a date with Michelle. And my mom was like, Michelle? And I was like, no, Michelle. And she was like, okay.
Makes sense.
That was it.
My mom was the same.
That was it.
Like, you don't have to know. I know, man.
Yeah. And I don't know, just I feel like especially for my gay friends and my transgender friends, going out in non-queer spaces is unsafe. Yeah. It's not just about being comfortable and wanting everything to be a gay bar. It's about my trans friends being assaulted in every toilet they go to. Yeah. And I think that is why the topic of queer safety is so important, is because I think everyone should be able to have safe and fun experiences. Everywhere. And I think everywhere. Yeah. And queer people are so marginalized in so many ways that I think queer liberation is something that is always very high on my agenda. And even though right now you can see that many people thought there was too much queer going on. Like people got tired of hearing about queer stuff. And I kind of understand, because people feel like, this is something I'm not part of.
I also think sometimes people think they're being inclusive. Like, hey, everyone is welcome at our events, right? And then I'm like, yeah. But it doesn't feel that way.
Exactly.
Well, I'm very straight passing, and my partner is also male, so I'm lucky to say it like that. But I know so many people that are not, and they don't feel safe in those spaces. So,
and I would even argue they are not safe in those spaces, because sometimes when we give the trainings also, people are like, yeah, but you can just feel safe because I feel safe everywhere. Yeah, because you are.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think as a woman in nightlife, we already have so much experience of being unsafe. So then the link to queer people, people of color who experience racism, people with disabilities who cannot even physically enter, it's quite at some point easy to click and to see, hey, there's actually many people for who this was not created.
Sometimes people also just don't realize this. I remember during COVID, I wanted to do a series called Women in Hard Dance. We did like 2 episodes and then COVID completely happened and it didn't happen, but whatever. It was a really cool idea. But then the first episode came out with us telling our own stories. The amount of backlash from men about us being assaulted, because every one of us was, it was just crazy. And I was like, what? We literally are telling us stories. Who are you to say it's just not true?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think about this a lot. Of course, I think about this a lot. But it really comes down to that if I'm sharing my experience, that doesn't cost you something. If people who are black tell me about racism, that doesn't make me inherently a bad person for being white. You're not a bad person for being a man.
It's not an attack as long as it's not
exactly
about you.
And
right?
then you also need to just listen to people. And I think a lot of people can do with a little bit more listening.
Also, you can just learn.
Yeah, I agree.
I've had opinions, and then a black friend tells me their opinion about it. I'm like, oh, actually, maybe I was wrong.
Exactly.
That's fine.
Yeah,
and
you
then
can
just
be
tell
wrong.
them that, like, oh, cool, thanks for telling me. Done. Like, it's not an attack, and you learn,
agree.
especially as a white person or as a straight person. Like,
Yeah,
just listen.
or as exactly. Yeah. So I just feel like, for me, when we talked in the beginning about the dance floor is political, this is also what it's about.
Yeah.
Because it's not anyone's dance floor, it's everyone's dance floor. But it cannot be everyone's dance floor if people in a wheelchair cannot get in. So it's always political.
Yeah.
And it's always about making space for certain people. And making space for certain people costs a little bit space to others. But you sometimes have to think, like, am I losing this much? Or maybe I can just take a step to the back and I'll still be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's kind of the answer here.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. How do you talk to people about this? Because I can imagine, obviously you do a lot through social media, you do a lot with communities. How do you translate that to people?
To people on social media or to people in general? Or
in general, but I think let's start with social media, because I think you're very active on social media.
Yeah. I was always already active on every social media platform ever.
Same.
Girl, I was on Twitter problematically a lot. Like
I've removed my Twitter.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was like the girlie who would post like, going to the toilet now.
Yeah, very much same. Hives?
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
Same. So I think I was always already active on social media, but when I did political science, at some point it started making sense to also talk about that. But it began as kind of a difficult mix, because I had a lot of men who followed me because I was a dancer and because I was just a blonde girl, and I don't know why they follow blonde girls, but a lot of men followed me. But when I spoke about politics, they were all like, whoa.
You're a dancer, wait a second.
And I still get messages like that a lot. Just stick to your dancing. Girl, you're prettier if you just shut up. I still get those a lot, but I'm also learning that then that's not my people. And now my socials are growing with people that are my people.
Yeah.
And just how there's people who follow me every day. I have like 100 unfollowers every day as well.
It happens.
And it's just like, I don't know, like trash sorting itself out. I don't know. No, I mean, like, it's also okay if stuff I say disturbs you and you choose to disengage from it. I think that's okay.
I do it the other way around as well. I have a lot of people still on my Facebook and Instagram from years ago, and then I see a certain post or a story,
like,
and I'm like, yeah, no, not my vibe.
Not anymore.
Bye.
Totally. Yeah. And people should feel like totally allowed to decide that I'm not their vibe.
Yeah.
But I think for me it's important to speak my truth. And I've also had people asking me, like, can you please separate your accounts? Because I want to follow you for Scooter and I don't want to follow you for the politics. But then I would be untrue to me.
I kind of never get that, because you can just scroll past those posts or like not read it. You're like, oh no, this is not my vibe. Just like, I've never got that. Yeah.
And it's also, I don't make my social media for them. It is about me. And that is, I think a lot of social media is very focused on the individual. That's how it's built. But also people should not expect me to be something I'm not. And I'm a super political person, but I'm also someone who really enjoys partying, dancing for scooter, working in nightlife, shaking ass. And I think if that disturbs anyone, then it's fine, but then they can just unfollow and disengage and they'll be fine. So now I try to combine it, and I always say, so if you came for the dancing, you're welcome to stay for the politics. If you came for the politics, I hope you also enjoy the dancing. Yeah. And I think that's kind of also now what I'm kind of more leaning into. Like, this is what I'm gonna, I don't want to say is my brand, because I'm not a brand, but a person. Yeah. But it kind of is my brand, that it's both.
Yeah, at some point when you're working in an industry like this, you are kind of your own brand, basically. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
And I think also, like, being a woman, just talking about women again, but people should be able to see that women can do both. Yeah. And when I started doing political science, people were like, oh, maybe you should, like, keep your ass off the internet. And I was like, I'm so done with people having to act a certain way to be taken seriously. I can have my ass on the internet and write a political science essay the next day, and it doesn't...
Yeah. No, I never got that either. I think a very interesting example of that is Paris Hilton, actually, who has the baby voice. And then you hear her talking in court in this serious, voice, like protecting all these kinds of people's rights. And I think it's so cool.
You're like, whoa, girl.
She mixes the voice back in. I'm like, oh, you're amazing. Yeah, that's so cool.
And it's smart.
Yeah, it's very smart.
Yeah. And I think many people will not listen to this and be like, oh, Paris Hilton is so smart. But if you look a little bit further than that...
I think she's cool.
I think also she's cool. Yeah. I'm a Paris Hilton stan also.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, I think that's very cool. How do you deal with the criticism? Does it hurt you? Or is it just flying off?
Well... sometimes it really hurts. When I started, I thought hate doesn't touch me, and I lied. I completely lied. It does. Because one time in 1 week, I had like 3 videos or posts that I got really terrible hate at. One video was about sexual harassment, and then people would send me sexual harassment fantasies of me, which I found deeply disturbing.
Yeah, that's awful.
And I made a video about racism, and they would just send racist, not about me, but towards me. And I learned then and there how large of an issue racism is. Not that I didn't know it before, but having it as a white person, we're very often oblivious to how big racism is. Yeah. But then talking about racism as a white person and then hearing what they say, I was like, what the hell? And then we had something, and I was doubting to talk about this, but I think it's good to mention briefly. So I know people who organized a party this year, and it was called Queer Gabber. And the idea of the party was just to organize something in a queer club. Yeah. So especially for queer people, but everyone else who wanted to come was also, of course, welcome. But it was especially for people who didn't yet feel so comfortable to go to bigger, hardcore events. And I danced in the video clip of that. It was not my party, it was not my thing, but I danced in the video clip. And we made a lot of people really, 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 really fucking mad. And in some ways, I understood their anger. Because they felt like they were being excluded from their own music genre. Which was never the intention. The intention was to build something extra. And something that can serve as like a stepping board for people who might feel scared to immediately go to Thunderdome. Yeah. Because they're like, will anyone look like me? And there's also people who've had negative experiences at hardcore parties. So it was especially a party for them to just, in a safe environment, in their own club, explore the music and learn, maybe meet some people. And we got like really nice responses from people in the Gabber community, but we also got really, really, really angry. And one of them was so angry that I had to go to the police with it. And fun fact about me is I hate the cops. I wish I would never ever have to go to the cops. But this happened in the same week as the video I told you about the sexual harassment and the racism video. And then I thought, I'm gonna quit all of this. I hate this.
Yeah, I can imagine.
This is terrible.
Just to touch quickly on the Queer Gabber thing, I really like the idea. I also, knowing the Gabber community very well, I also get why there was so much backlash. I think it's a very inclusive community, and I think they feel very inclusive. I just don't think that feels that way for everyone. That's not that Gabber look, you know? Yeah. So I think there's definitely work to do there, but I also I get both sides.
Yeah, and I talked also with...
But getting that angry, that's never okay.
No.
So you can have a nice discussion about this in every way, but just the hate.
I think so, yeah. There were also people who reached out to me personally, like, why did you dance in this video clip? Or can you explain to me why queer gabber? And I explained it to them and they said, I get it, but it also hurts us because we are already inclusive. And I could say, I get that. Yeah. And if I go to gabber parties, I feel included. Yeah. But my 2-meter tall trans woman friend, will she feel the same? And some of them were like, yes, but also other people told us to fuck off with our queer bullshit, that all our gay folks should die. And then I'm like, okay, so you're preaching inclusivity, but you're telling me to jump in front of a train. Yeah. That's not very inclusive of you.
Yeah, I very much agree. Yeah.
So it's and. Yeah. And I can see where they're coming from. And I don't want to bash the gabber community because it's also a place where I found inclusivity and what I really enjoyed.
Very much, yeah.
But when the extreme hate came and they announced a protest in front of the door, they said, we will fuck you up, everything. That really scared me. And it also made me just sad to see that we have to come further. Yeah. Ultimately, they never came. Everything died with a scissor.
Obviously, usually it's a lot of talk. Not always, but it's usually a lot of talk.
And I would just think, like, let people have their party. And if they really love hardcore, they will go to the bigger stuff. And they will see that gabber, as by definition, is something for all people. I also understand where it's coming from. Because, for example, hardcore gabber has also been ridiculed. And we also got this... people told us that we were ridiculing it. And I really think... it might feel like that also because of like old trauma, but we never intended to ridicule it. We just really loved the music. Yeah. And that is why we just wanted to have a party. And that's, like, I didn't organize it. People thought I was way more involved than I was. But I do feel strongly about this. Yeah. Also, and I think, can I say this? Yes, I can say this. There's also just the fact that in the gabber community, gabber is not a politically cornered community. Gabber, there are left-wing gabbers and there are right-wing gabbers. Yeah. And I would even argue there are far left gabbers and there are also far right gabbers. Yeah. And
very much.
That is something as the hardcore community has to deal with. Yeah. How do you reconcile all these people in one place?
Sometimes that's hard for as someone that works as this party. Yeah. Like, where do you draw the line also of people that are allowed in your space?
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not for banning people based on their political views. I'm also not saying everyone has to be...
until like, a certain point.
A progressive lefty like me. But if you tell people to... like hurt themselves because of who they are, then I don't want you in my space. Yeah. And I think you should be allowed to say that and make space. And ideally, everyone is fine with everyone. Yeah. But as long as they're not, there has to be a line drawn somewhere. Yeah. And I think that is something that the gabber community has to think about. Like, definitely. How do we keep these people with us? We also don't want to banish them. Yeah.
What I do think is really cool is that we have a lot of new young gabbers now. Yeah, I do too. It's really cool because it's obviously a style. You see a lot of older people in there, but now there's like, especially also in Germany, so many like 18-year-olds coming to this party. That's so cool to me.
I think so too. Yeah. And it's ultimately also about sharing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And about that the things that change in society will also change in the gabber scene. And I'm sorry if that's difficult, but I
get that it's difficult.
Me too.
Yeah, it's also their baby, you know. These people are so like into the scene, and it's.
I agree.
We say it's a lifestyle. It's like it's not just music. It's like a whole lifestyle, and I totally get that. Yeah. Then if things are changing, that's hard. Yeah.
I get that too. Yeah. And also, if it's your lifestyle and people just take parts of it for their own benefit, that also sucks. Yeah. I can totally acknowledge that. Yeah. So I can acknowledge, of course, their point of view. And luckily, we got messages from various people deep in the gabber community saying, hey, I don't really support the idea of making a separate group, but I support you guys' reasons. So if you want to have this party, enjoy. And if you ever want to go to another gabber party, I invite you.
Yeah. And that's cool. Oh. Yeah, I love that. Oh. Yeah.
I loved it too. Yeah, I loved it too. Cool. And I met many people through there that I now see at gabber parties. And I'm like, hey, we can do dancing together and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk a little bit about mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, I want to shout out to our sponsor. I'm going to turn around.
Yeah, me
Let's
too.
both turn around.
The duo.
Yeah. I got it in black because I have to work at events all the time in black.
And I got it in pink because I'm a girly.
Honestly, I am too. I love like wearing bright colors, but then I'm in black all the time because of my work. So, mental health. First of all, shout out to the sponsor, Men's Mental Health. I think it's really cool. It's a clothing brand, and they make these shirts, and they have a ton of like cool collabs, and especially are very visible in the hard dance scene right now.
Cool.
It's such a yeah, it's a statement piece, you know. You're
Yeah.
wearing this, it opens conversations, and I think it's very important to talk men's mental health, mental health in general. Why is mental health so important to you personally before we go into everything else?
I think ultimately I'm someone who really wants a safe society where people can be who they are and feel comfortable in that. And you can only have such a society if people are mentally also okay. And for me, mental health is also political. I'm sorry, there I go again. But if you live in a country where all like mental health institutions have been completely like cut with money, cut with their funding, if you have like problems, there's waiting lists of 6 months. I think we live in a society that did not focus on mental health enough. Yeah. And in the scenes that we are in scenes that take a toll on your mental health.
Definitely, and it's also not spoken much about.
No, I agree.
It's one of the reasons I do this podcast, because I know so many people in this scene that got a burnout or are struggling, and especially with these shirts as well, where you wear it on your back. Yeah, it opens conversations. It gives a chance for people to talk, and I think that's so important, because so many people are struggling without telling anyone.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I think especially like looking at our scenes, for example, it's also a certain type of people that are drawn to those scenes. Yeah. And there's already a correlation, I think, sometimes between people who feel like misfits. They don't know in their normal day-to-day life, they don't feel like they can be themselves, and then they enter nightlife or they enter parties or club scenes and they find themselves there. Like, I found myself in the club. I know who I am because I grew up in a club, kind of. I know what my queer identity is because I went to the queer clubs, and I found like ultimate joy in parties such as hardcore parties. Yeah. I don't think I've ever felt more connected to people as during like a closing of a hardcore party somewhere.
Oh, crying during that.
I know. I know. So I also understand that if you feel like a misfit somewhere, that you are drawn to these spaces. Yeah. It's because it's misfits uniting with misfits, and I love that. Yeah. And then it would be oblivious to not pay attention to that enough. Yeah. And I think that's why I really also support this brand, is because it makes it explicit. Yeah. And also, it makes it explicit that men's mental health matters. And
definitely, I think that's like we're both women, and obviously everything else aside about like feminism and stuff. It's more. I have so many friends, so many girlfriends that I can talk to about everything. Like womanhood for me, it's so important. Queer friends as well, but especially like the girlies. I can talk about everything, and I feel like men have that so less. My partner as well. They may have a few good friends, but then I'm like, you don't talk to your good friends.
And they find it so difficult
he does, but like so many men, like so many of my friends don't.
Yeah, I agree.
Like one of my best friends struggling with shit, and I learn about it like 3 months later. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Yeah.
And I think also, as someone who talks a lot about the way that society harms women, it's also very good to explicitly point out that this is a way that society harms men. Because, for example, if we look at like statistics on discrimination, you see time and time again that, for example, in work, in medical, everything hits women harder. Yeah. But there's one thing that hits women less hard, and that's mental health. Yeah. And every single study that is being done about mental health, support systems, and also expectations of healthy mental health hits men by far the hardest, because they're expected to have a good, stable, providing mental health.
It's almost funny that's still the patriarchy that actually is harming the men.
Yes,
because they are supposed to be the healthy providers, and nothing is wrong with them, and they're strong and they don't cry. And
exactly. And so many men, because of that, are not in touch with their emotions, and then they feel bad, but they don't know how to feel bad. Yeah. And they don't know how to use that. Like, for example, the suicide rates of men are so much higher than women, and that is again because we don't give them enough tools to deal with their emotions. Yeah. And I would argue that that's the same thing that harms women in the end. It's just a different side of the same coin. Yeah, very much. So I do think that men's mental health is something that we explicitly need to talk about and create support systems for.
Yeah, and especially in a scene like ours where work pressure is so high.
Girl, I know, we're overworked and underpaid.
Very much, everyone, but also for the people partying. Like so many young men that just like party 3 days straight and then go through it. Yeah.
And I think in the same things that sometimes people say, no, we should just talk about people. and it's always just people. But some things harm women more and some things harm men more.
I mean, mental health is important for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
But you can still talk about men's mental health without not talking about women's
exactly.
mental health.
So
right?
I think it's very good to split also those things up and say, okay, yes, indeed, mental health is important for everyone. But if you're a man, the chances of you suffering from poor mental health are higher. And that is why we need to take a bit more care of your mental health. Or we need to have a little bit more support in place. Do you have people you can talk to?
Yeah.
Or, for example, men are often not believed if they go to doctors or psychologists for their mental health issues.
But also for sexual assault, for example.
Yeah,
which is also obviously a problem for women, but for men as well, definitely.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's something we learn in these trainings a lot, is that there's this exercise we do. And people have to move across a line to see how they differ for each other. And one of the things is that it's about being touched without consent. And in the beginning, we saw mostly only women take steps there. But now, more and more, we see that men are also moving at that statement. And what it demonstrates very well is that, yes, it's an issue that harms women, but it's also an issue that harms men. Just the only difference is how often it happens. And that if we look at how often, then it happens more often to women. But that doesn't mean that if you're a man and you're touched without consent, then that it's all of a sudden okay. No. It's never okay. And even as a man, sometimes they hear, well, you should be happy that you're touched, or you're bigger anyway.
Yeah.
And that is so harmful.
Yeah, it is.
It's so harmful. Yeah. So yeah, I'm all feminist, but I'm also all here for men's health.
For me, feminism is being there for everyone. Everyone should be the same. We should be equal. And it's not men here, but it's also not women here. No, it's equal.
I agree. And it's the same way that I view, for example, topics that have to do with like black empowerment or racism. I'm not saying like white people shouldn't exist. I'm not saying men shouldn't exist. I'm not saying all white people are bad, all men are bad. But I'm just saying that white people need to make space for people of color. I'm just saying that men need to make space for women. That ultimately makes everyone better in the end.
Yeah, very much.
I think so.
I think so too.
So yeah,
men's mental health. I have a discount code actually, because I thought that would be cool to do. It's TMIL, so the music industry loft. 15. Yeah, I thought that was
TMIL?
Yeah.
15.
15, yeah,
Cute.
for 50% discount. So where your stuff that you think is important and talk about it.
I think so.
It's also with like queer clothing, right? Queer clothing, pride clothing.
Girl, I have so much activist clothing. It's almost problematic.
Yeah,
I can just wear like an activist statement on my back any day.
I love it. Do you actually, are there any brands that you've not worked with because of their values or whatever? I'm curious if there's some stories. You don't have to say names if you don't want to.
Yes, there's places where I have decided to not dance. There's also collaborations that I decided to not do. I have to say though, my politics is pretty specific, and I'm pretty activist in a lot of senses. For example, I don't know if I can say Free Palestine on this podcast, but I will. So Free Palestine.
Definitely.
So that means that if Free Palestine is among my core politics, that there's a lot of things that do not support Free Palestine right now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find a way in which, one, I can still live my life as a person who lives here in the West that is complicit, but on the other hand also stays true to my politics. Yeah. And that sometimes means I cancel, boycott, and don't do certain things. But that also means that sometimes I give myself the space to do something, because there's no way of avoiding every bad thing.
I think that's fine, because the opposite side of like getting hate for people that don't agree with you is like the people that are like the internet heroes and are like, oh, you're doing this one thing, working with this one brand, you're immediately not an activist anymore, and everything you do is shit. You know, like we're not perfect.
No, I agree. And there's some brands I would never work with because they're directly complicit in terrible things. But there's also brands who are indirectly very far down, trying to make it different, blah. And I personally hold some space for that nuance. Yeah. Even though I also understand if people are stricter in that. I think, for example, as a dancer, there is not that much activist political work I can do. No. But my passion is still dancing. Yeah. So I have to find a way in which I can still be a political person on the one hand, but also have fun dancing jobs on the other hand. Yeah. And yes, I think 80% of my life is super political, but like the world is not going to vanish if I dance at one place that is less political. Especially I see this on the internet so many times where someone is, for example,
political or vegan or whatever, and they do one thing that's not aligned with that, and they get so much hate for that. And for me, example, I'm vegetarian. I eat a lot of vegan food as well. If I would eat like one piece of meat on my holiday, that does not make me less of a vegetarian person, because that, like, I'd rather have everyone eat a little bit less meat than me being perfectly perfect in
Absolutely.
that.
I think for me, I dance for Scooter. That means I work in Germany. That means I fly. I sometimes have to fly.
I go everywhere by car.
For example, tomorrow I have a show in Poland. Like, what am I gonna do? Drive to Poland and then drive to Germany and then drive to France the next day? Like, so
Pick
for
your
me,
battles.
being someone who cares about the climate and being someone who flies, that's just one of the contradictions of existing in this world.
Yeah.
And that is okay with me. I know Carice van Houten, she at some point said, yes, I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah.
But activism is only going to work if we get all the hypocrites.
Yeah.
So yes, that's kind of how I see this.
Definitely. It's for me as well. I'm very much about the climate and everything. I go everywhere by car.
Yeah.
I travel a lot. Like, I'm sorry, I drive to Germany almost every weekend.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry, what am I supposed to do? This is my job.
The Deutsche Bahn, where you get stuck in Bron, I don't even know. Like the Deutsche Bahn, where 1 in 3 trains is too late and you just get stuck at a random train platform.
Also, I live like in a place where if I have to go to a train station, that will take me 20 minutes, and then I have to like do three layovers to get to Amsterdam, for example. I'm sorry, I'm going by car. Yeah.
And I think that's also what people need to understand about activism. It's not about being perfect, but it's about criticizing systems. For me, it is about criticizing systems rather than individuals. Yeah. We can get mad for us for not using a paper straw, but using a plastic one. But then if we let Shell off the hook, then what is my my paper straw going to change? So for me, my political view is also very systemic based, and then it gives you a little bit of space as a person to just exist.
For example, also the brands that I work with, I find it very important that they align to what I think. Does it mean they're perfect? Probably not. I don't know all the details, you know. But for example, a Festival Supply, I've been working with them for years, and they do really cool rave gadgets. They have some really cool like Festi packs. They have hearing protection, which I find very important, but also they make these bottle caps, so you can close your bottle, which means you can use your plastic bottle again at festivals, which is so cool to me because, first of all, for the ravers, it's cheaper. Yeah. Second of all, for the environment, it's way better. Also, they, for example, have sort of like elastic that you put your empty cups in, so it makes the recycle system easier. Stuff like that is cool. They also have a Pride collection all year round. So are they perfect? Do they use plastic? And probably, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously, it's rave gadgets. But
you're not going to make them from wood.
Exactly. But I think it's so cool to work with brands that fit you as a person.
And I think also as a person we are not perfect.
Obviously.
So why would I expect a brand or something to be? I expect brands to try though.
Yeah.
Like for example now in these times, dropping all your diversity policies because Trump is asking you to, then I think you're a shit brand.
Definitely.
Because that shows that you never cared about diversity. You're just cared about diversity because it was popular to care about it. But people who are trying to do the best that they can in this system, I support that.
Let's go back to mental health because we got off the hook. You have ADHD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, is it a surprise if you look at all these different jobs?
Yeah.
I think that can only be an ADHD girl.
Also, a lot of creative people are like,
a lot of people in Nightlife.
I am hoogbegaafd, or as they call in English gifted, which is an awful word for it. It's very similar to, it has very similar symptoms to call it that, to ADHD and autism.
Yeah.
So I feel you with like the chaos and everything. But how do you navigate so many things with that, and how does that influence your life?
So I think one time I joined a project about ADHD, and it was about seeing ADHD as a superpower, and that changed my life.
Oh, I can imagine.
Because I saw it so much as like something that maybe harmed me or as like a disability. But I think the only reason why I can do all these things that I do is because I have raging ADHD. Like, if I'm interested in something, I'll dive hyper-focus into it. So when I studied political science, I felt like I had no ADHD anymore because I was just hyper-focusing my entire study. And I got so interested into a lot of political things because it's really interesting to me. Yeah. And ADHD makes me just dive straight into that. But ADHD also makes my brain a dopamine brain. So I love looking for new, fun, and adventurous stuff to do.
Yeah.
I love having new experiences. I'm super impulsive. Ask me anything and I'll probably say yes. And that sometimes is difficult, but it also brings me in very fun positions. Like Scooter. Yeah. I just said, yes, call me tomorrow. Let's do it. Yeah. And she was like, okay, I'm booking you a ticket to Manchester. And I was like, let's go. And then next week I was in Manchester. Yeah. And I think that impulsivity also brings me chances and options and brings me things to do. And it can also be sometimes overwhelming because I have a tendency to say yes to everything.
Yeah, I get that.
And then I look at my agenda and at my calendar and I'm like,
shit.
Girl, what?
Yeah.
How are you going to do this? Yeah. And then I try again to rely back on my support system to also tell me, girl, you're doing too much. Take a day off. Yeah. And I try to do that. And I'm also trying to just ride the wave of a high season sometimes. I was talking about this yesterday. Doing Scooter means that in my summer I have a very different period of time than in winter. Because in winter we might have some shows, but it's like one in a month. Or we did like a tour in October, okay. But from November to March there's nothing. Yeah. So that means in November to March I have quite a lot of time to rest, reflect, hibernate.
I feel that I basically work 40 more usually hours in marketing as a freelancer, and then I do content creation or team lead for media at events.
On the side.
It's kind of connected to it because all the marketing I do is also for events. So often when there's an event I do marketing for, I also do content or lead the media teams. However, this summer I did so many like on the side jobs of that my full summer from June till now has been full. I have a weekend off next week. Very excited for that. And then there's one left and then I'm done. I love it. Yeah. This gives me so much energy, but I'm also so tired right now. I'm like, I woke up this morning and my partner, he was going to his normal job because he also does events, but he also has a normal job. And I was just, usually I get up as well. And I was just laying there. I was like, no, I need to stay here. I'm so excited for our winter season where I don't have to go every weekend anymore.
I know.
I still do some weekends, but it's not as much. And I think that balance is really important.
Yeah, and I think you're making such a good point about I think it's, again, two sides of the same coin. I get so much energy from it. I love it so much, all the different things I'm doing. For example, we had Pride and we did like this activist thing at Pride where we spoke about Palestine and about everything. And then 2 days later I was doing awareness team at Dekmantel, and then 2 days later I went with Scooter again. Yeah. And everything was so much fun and I was feeling so blessed that I could do all of these things, and I got home and I was exhausted.
But then you crash. As long as, for me as well, I think my brain works a bit in the same way where you keep going, you're in that high, to call it like that, you keep going and it's fun, and then afterwards you just crash. Yeah.
And I then also let myself crash. Yeah. And I let myself be on the couch, like a couch potato for a couple of days to regain my energy and do it again. And that until now has worked. I really try to be wary of burnouts. Yeah. I really, really, really try to never have a chaotic period for longer than, let's say, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then I need a week off. Yeah. And after a week off, not a new 6-week period, but for example, I work only 3 days a week in my winter season, and then some days I have like a weekend gig, but also very often I would just work 3 days a week.
Yeah, fine.
And that helps. So I think for me that really helps. And again, support. Having people around me who get it, who will cook for me. I live with my friends. Like, I thrive in community in every sense of the way. So my friends cook for me. If I'm coming home stressed, they're so like, nice. I cooked. Yeah.
My partner cooks.
I know, and it makes such a difference.
And I also hate cooking, by the way. But
me too.
He is such a good cook, and he just gets up and helps me. Like, I've been having medical problems with my feet and legs. Just having someone at home that supports you, that like gets up to get your phone from the table because you're fucking too tired to get it. Amazing. Yeah.
And I do have to say that, like, because we were talking about mental health, and I mentioned COVID a couple times in this talk. One time that I really, really, really struggled with ADHD was during COVID.
Oh, I get that.
Because everything that I like get dopamine from disappeared. So I really sought dopamine in very unhealthy ways. I just had like very unhealthy habits during COVID. And that's also when I learned that all these things that I do are not necessarily bad for me because they are so much and they're overwhelming. They're good for me because I can release my energy in them. And if you take all of that away, I'm actually way unhappier. Yeah. So I also think about that now. If I'm stressed and if I'm busy, it also helps me to think, girl, you're tired. Yeah. But this is it for you. This is so much better.
There's a balance there, right?
Yeah.
In feeling that very good feeling and keeping it going, and also knowing when to stop. Yeah. And I think that's very important.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about you personally for a second.
Yeah.
Well, we were, but what are you up to right now? Is there anything going on? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, so we're mid-season of Scooter right now.
Yeah, we're filming this in August. So
so I'm now in a 6-week tour, 6 weeks every weekend.
Yeah.
So tomorrow I'm flying to Poland, and then we have 3 shows, and then next week 2, and then 2, and then...
I still think it's so cool that you work with Scooter, man. Like,
it's
so
also
cool.
so much fun.
Yeah,
like last week
that.
we had a new... he made a song with Joost Klein and Paul Elstak.
So cool, yeah.
And we dropped that song on Friday when we also had they dropped, not me. They dropped. We dropped.
We get a bit of credit.
They dropped. They dropped the song on Friday, and we had a show on Friday. So Joost and Paul came.
Mm-hmm.
So then all of a sudden I was on stage with Joost Klein and Paul Elstak, and that was just my little like gabber girly dream.
To be honest, because obviously I do content creation, and we do a gabber event in Cologne right now.
Oh, cool.
Which is really cool. You should come sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll definitely invite you and remind me later.
Yeah.
The first time I was on stage with Paul Elstak, I was like, oh, I'm on stage with Paul Elstak. I don't have this with anyone. Yeah. But I was like, oh, that's Paul Elstak.
Yeah.
And some of these like really old school gabbers, and then I filmed them. I'm like, it's so cool.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm now actually in a season of a lot of highs. Mm-hmm. And then after this, everything calms down just a little bit, that I'm also excited for. We have the last show of the year, either in October or November. And then I'm going to go into hibernation.
Yeah.
And in terms of politics and stuff, Orphic is just going to stay because we're still building. We have some cool events coming up, some in September in Club Raum. And we're hosting a stage at Onder de Radar, which is a bigger festival in the east of the country. And I'm actually going to look for a new job at the end of the year because Sex Matters and we're a great match, but it's already 7 years in. And after 7 years of doing the same thing, I think I'm also looking for something else. So if anyone here is listening and they're like, oh, I have a great job for you. Yeah. Call me, hit me up. Yeah. But I think it will be more freelancing because I have all these different things anyway. I'm going to stick with the topics that are important to me. Mm-hmm. Social safety, I will totally stick to. Safer clubbing, awareness, all of the stuff I will definitely still try to incorporate in my work. But I want to go a little bit like more wide. I also want to talk about other topics than just social safety all the time. Yeah, cool. And I think I'm already trying to do that now on socials. I'm making videos, I'm talking about politics, and I see that it's way more than I thought. People are listening a bit.
I see you on my For You page all the time, man.
Yeah. It's wild. Yeah. It's wild. And like, I thought in the beginning, like, people are not going to be interested in a scooter girl talking about politics. And some of them aren't, I have to admit. But also, people are.
How funny is it though? There's going to be people that know you as the political girl, and then they suddenly learn you're dancing for Scooter.
Yeah, and it's also those two things mixing up. Because if I'm, for example, at a Scooter after party, and people are like, oh, so do you have a normal job as well? Or are you just a dancer? And I always say, yeah, I'm also a political scientist with a master's in international development. And people are like, whoa, girl.
Excuse you?
Or the other way around, if I'm doing super political things and they're like, oh, these activists never have work. And I'm like, actually, I do. Yeah. I work for Scooter. Do you know them? Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm definitely, like, Scooter's HP is getting old. He's like 63. So we are curious how long he's going to continue.
Honestly, I have respect for these DJs and artists that are still going.
They're just going. But until he stops, I'm also probably
especially
not stopping.
We do the gabber parties I talked about. Some of these DJs, I'm like, you were playing music before I was born. Yeah. Which is crazy. Yeah. I respect that so much.
Me too. Scooter has been touring for 32 years. Yeah. I am 28.
Yeah, I'm 30, so
yeah.
That's
but
so cool.
I think Scooter is going to continue for some more years. I don't know how long I'll be able to do it physically also. But as long as I can, I definitely will continue to do it all.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share, or are you going to say bye?
No, I think we talked about everything.
We talked about everything.
Bye.
I'm going to link everything you talked about, everything you're doing down below. I'm going to link Men's Mental Health down below. Yeah. I'll throw in Festival Supply too, since we talked about that. Yeah, and if you have any questions, slide in our DMs. Be nice though. No hate tolerated here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a really fun conversation.
I think so too.
Yeah. Okay. See you at the next one.